QST. This is Ed, W4EMB, on the CW Corner podcast. You can catch this podcast on all your favorite platforms to include Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Play, iHeartRadio, and Audible, and I'm sure it's floating around on some others out there. Also, see me in action on my YouTube channel at W4EMB. I'm also good on QRZ. Here on this channel, we will talk about amateur radio subjects revolving around portable operations, CW, rigs, antennas, batteries, and CW keys, and just anything else we can think you might find interesting. Well, let's get into today's episode. All right, in today's episode of the CW Corner, I'm your host, Ed, W4EMB, but we are also here on the line with us is my good buddy Chris. Chris, go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody on the CW Corner. Name is Chris. Call sign is N8PEM. Live up in Columbus, Ohio.
N8 question mark?
N8 question mark, yeah.
Inside joke.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. How are you doing today, Ed?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm good.
Awesome. Just so people know the inside joke, when Marcos and I had gone out to activate, and our good buddy Don had tried to work us, KC0DWZ. We gave him a K question mark, and he said KC0DWZ. So we gave him KC question mark, and of course we just went every letter, gave him a question mark, and at the end we said hi. We heard him 5-9 the whole time.
Yep.
So the other day I was out to activate, and there I am activating, and all of a sudden N8PEM comes across. But I was sitting on my butt in the woods doing my first POTA mule and dropping keyboard and whatever. Missed the call sign first time through, but I caught the N, so I said N question mark. Well, of course, Chris, knowing me, thought I was messing with him. But actually, yeah, go ahead.
And I messed right back with you because I bumped my speed up like 4 words a minute to make it even faster, make it harder on you.
But actually what had happened on my end was, besides him putting his speed up, was his signal was so strong, it was overloading the front end of my radio and shutting off my speaker. So it just sounded like a garbled, just a mix of just, I don't know what. Have you watched that video yet to watch that happen?
I was waiting for it to get posted. Is it up?
Yeah, it's up. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. I'll watch that once we're done here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before I knew it was you, I look at the radio, I go, okay, you can slow that down. But anyway, so yeah, you never know what's happening on the other person's end of the radio. You never know. And so when we're out there doing those activations, sometimes you feel weird about, giving somebody 3 question marks and then turn on and give them a 5-9 signal report. They're like, yeah, you just question marked me 3 times. Now you give me a 5-9. Which is it? But you never know. Do you ever have any of those kind of weird anomalies happen while you're trying to copy call signs and just it's loud and clear, you're just not getting it while you're out there activating?
100%. So it happens. Well, let me back up a second. So there are activations where I feel like I crush it and I feel like I copy every call sign on the first try. And then there's activations where maybe here's a great example. Recently, I've noticed that sometimes people chasing me, they come so fast after I finish my 73 dit that I miss the first dit or dah of their call sign. That happens more than you would think. And I have to question mark them just because I don't know whether it was a W-A-N or K on the first letter. And then, just sometimes you're not expecting a call, you're a little distracted, or maybe your hands are cold and you put your hand in your pocket for a second and you're just not ready for it. So it happens for sure.
Absolutely. And that's something I tell newer operators is don't worry about what you think the other end is thinking. Most new people that I bump into, that is a big concern. They're always like, well, I don't want to slow them down, or I don't want to hinder them, the other folks. But the other folks, they're hunting us, and they'll have the patience and work it out. But great point about sending that dit. Uh, for the sideband folks out there, that's the same thing as saying QRZ. And as soon as you say QRZ, you better be ready to copy. Uh,
Yep.
I was
Yep.
making a joke with my wife yesterday. I said, hey, how do you get a room full of CW operators to be quiet? And she said, I don't know how. I said, you just say dit, because you have a whole table full of people just sitting there talking, but as soon as you hear dit, everybody knows that it's about to get busy. It's
Right.
just like saying QRZ. So that's the point where you have to listen.
Yeah.
And when I had my recording set up on my radio to play play my CQ for me, and I also just called my bye bye message. When my bye bye message was a little too short, I couldn't dress up my handwriting of my notepad and also key in my digital log, and it would play dit, and I'm still sitting there messing with my pencil, and here they come. Here comes the customers. So I got to a point where I made my bye bye message obnoxiously long. It said
Mm.
BKRRESTU
Yep.
W4EMB 72. And by then, I was all done doing what I needed to do and had pencil in hand, was ready to copy the next call sign. Yeah,
Yeah.
great
And
point.
to add on to that, so listeners uh, will probably think that I'm a little too old school because I recently just changed from paper logging to Polo. Thanks to Ed for giving me the info on that and showing me how awesome that app is. And it sometimes just takes me a little longer to log as I'm getting used to Polo. And sometimes I'll make a misstep and I'll mishear something while I'm trying to finger in a call sign on that app. So, if you change your operating conditions, you're trying to learn something new, maybe you just bumped up your speed, all those things could all add to needing to send a few more question marks for sure.
You just brought up a good little statement there. Change your operating conditions. That is the surefire way to make a mistake or have an oops. You and
Yep.
I were discussing that WindCamp battery for the KX3, and
Yep.
so I went out in the woods and I changed my operating conditions, and I took that WindCamp battery instead of my normal BioInno battery. And that BioInno battery has the built-in power poles and built-in barrel connector on it, and I use my power pole adapters on all my rigs. And I left that one in the car when I walked half mile in the woods and took that WindCamp battery that has two barrel connectors on it instead. And I got out there with a power pole coming from radio and nowhere to hook it. And luckily I had a spare power um, wire in the bag that had no end on it. And long story short, I ended up taking the two bare wires, cramming them into the power pole side of the second wire, and using sticks and jam them in there to hold them, and then hope that it worked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to improvise sometimes, but change. I like that statement. Change your operating conditions. That's a good one. And the Polo app. That's a great point as well. Sebastian has just done phenomenal work. If you haven't seen it, it's called Ham2K in your app store, but phenomenal app. And I recently, Chris, I've just gotten to the point, and I've been using Polo quite a while now, but I've just got to the point where I feel comfortable not using pencil and paper and just using Polo. Before trying to, like you said, learning how to use it and learning how to use it your way. Uh, I kept my pen and paper for pileups so that I could write partials, because if I started to type, N8 in the app, but then W4 came at me, I'd have to try to backspace and retype the W4. So I was using pen and paper to write a final call before I would type it in. But now I've learned to adapt to, hey, just take what I type and
Yep.
how to backspace. And the addition of a Bluetooth keyboard helped me get my fat fingers off my phone screen, so that helped out too. But now you
Yeah.
got to have a little bit more space now. Got to have some lap space. Yeah. And thanks to Sebastian for that Polo app. It's amazing. Polo or
Yeah.
Ham2K, just a phenomenal app.
100%. 100%. It's so well done. So
It
well
is.
done.
I love how you can, and if you go Google him on any, well, Google, search him on any YouTube videos, watch him do a demonstration, and you'll learn new stuff about that thing. I just come across one a couple weeks ago where anytime I wanted to switch frequencies, I would try to get my finger and then touch the frequency part and retype the frequency in there. Well, I learned by watching this video, you don't have to do that. Right where where your cursor is, where you type in a call sign, you type in a frequency and hit enter, and it says, "Oh, change that frequency." Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You don't even have to go up to the frequency window. You do it all in the QSO window. Yeah. And then the other thing, when you're done and you're packing it up but ready to go home, right there where you would normally type in my call sign, you type in QRT and hit enter. It spots you as QRT on the POTA website.
Wow.
How about that?
And I'm sure if you're doing a SOTA, it would spot you as QRT on SOTA as well.
I need to get smart on SOTA. One of these next episode with N8PEM, we need to have you do a SOTA presentation for us. Maybe give us a clue in all that business of how you do that.
Oh yeah, you're gonna need a long podcast for that.
Oh, good. We got a lot of openings on the calendar.
Okay.
All right, let's get into a couple of questions I have for you there, Chris. Right before we started the episode here, you and I were talking on the side, and we were talking just big numbers. So generally, about how many POTA and SOTA total activations, portable operations, have you done so far?
So I started doing SOTA first in February of 2021, and I followed up pretty shortly after that with my first POTA. And in those, got 5 years now. 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 years. Wow. I've done about 120 POTAs and 150 SOTAs, and sometimes they are overlapped. Sure. My favorite spot in Ohio that I activate at quite a bit. It's actually where I have my kilo. Is both a summit and a park, and so it's kind of a twofer. Right. But and I look for those. I look for summits and parks. That way I get credit for both.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, and that's a pretty respectable number. Also considering you're working man. You still got boys at home, and so to be able to get out in the park that much that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, and then roundabout career CW contacts.
About 7,000.
Right.
We talked about that. Yeah.
Yep. Nice. That's a huge number. That's big.
That's all right. I try to chase some POTA and SOTA every day I'm home in the shack. I also, and I know a lot of ops that do this, they'll, like right now is straight key month. Mm-hmm. So you try to get all those stations to get the sweep. You try to do the same thing for the what's the 4th of July one called?
13 colonies.
13 colonies, yeah.
That's
try to do the
favorites.
same.
Right.
You try to get on. We're going to do Winter Field Day next weekend,
right.
So we're going to make a bunch of queues there.
I can't believe it's next weekend already. I'm glad you said that.
I know, it's coming up fast.
You need to keep reminding me. You have a bad memory.
You just have a lot going on.
Oh, you probably. Yeah, anyway. There's just a lot going in different directions because I can't pay attention.
It's all good.
All right. So, Chris, in all those outings, when you first started, what was your rig that you started with? And then what have you gravitated towards now? So first started rig and then moved on to a what rig?
Okay. So the first rig I ever had for portable ops was based on budget. I wanted something that was economical, and I stumbled across an LNR LD11. So the same folks who make the mountain toppers, they made an LD5, I think it was. It was a 5-bander all mode QRP rig, and then they made an 11 band. Wow. And that was a great starter rig. Very fond of that. I'm not one to keep a lot of equipment, so once I moved on to some other rigs, I did sell that one. But great rig. They're hard to find. You don't see them come up very often.
And do you regret selling that one now?
No, not really. I have regretted selling one, and you know that story. And we're going to get to that here in like 1 minute. My main rig for SOTA is the KX2. I
Okay.
just don't think you can beat it. Now, the rig I really want to talk about,
Oh.
and I did a little prep on this. So I had a rig earlier this year. Ed knows this story a little bit. I sold it in May. I regretted selling it. I bought the same exact rig back. And
Not
here are
not the
some
same not the same type, but you got your radio back.
the exact radio back. So here's some info on this rig for our listeners. I'm not going to say the name yet. It's going to come at the end. I think this is a great rig for Parks on the Air. So this radio was first produced in 2003. So it's been around for a while. It was actually a follow-up version to a very popular rig that came out 4 years earlier that was not a QRP rig. It's a 10-watt rig, 10 meters through 160, all mode, has an internal ATU. And if you go back and look at the QST review of it, QST actually found that it would match up to 8-1 on the internal ATU. So that is a phenomenal
That's
tuner.
huge. Right.
Huge. Voltage wise, it'll accept anything from 9 to 13.8. The receive draw is around 300 milliamps, which isn't the lowest. You know, for some comparisons, the KX2 is about half that
Right.
at 150 milliamps. The ICOM 7300 Mark II, which some people use as a POTA rig, or the 7300,
Sure.
that's 700 milliamps.
Right.
The original 7300 was 900 milliamps. So great current draw. It is QRP rig.
Sure.
It has an outstanding receiver. On the Sherwood report, it actually ranks higher than the ICOM 7800, the Elecraft K2, and the Lab 599. Ranks as a better receiver on the Sherwood report than all three of those rigs. It has keyer memories. It has a SWR analyzer. It has DSP.
How many keyer memories? 2, 4?
I think it's 3.
3.
And it's really easy to get to. A great user interface. And when you find these used, which is not uncommon, you can usually find 1 or 2 a month on QRZ or whatever sources you use. They're about $500.
Wow.
And this radio is the ICOM 703.
The ICOM 703. And $500, that's for being a rig established around 2003. That's like almost like Bengali keys. They hold their value. They hold their value quite a bit.
Yeah. Now, I didn't research this, but I think I remember that when they were originally sold, they were around $500 or $700.
Sure.
But, you know, that was 22 years ago.
22 years.
Yeah. Now, if anybody that's listening decides to start looking at the 703, one thing to keep in mind is you really do need to buy a filter if it doesn't come with one, and they're about $200.
Ooh,
so
okay.
If you find one that already has a CW filter in it, they came with 2 different filter options: a 250 hertz filter and a 400 hertz filter. I prefer the 400, just to give a little more room. But without the filter, it's really wide banded. You hear a lot of adjacent signals when you're operating, which can be a fine way to operate. But I think most people that want to use this rig would probably want to get the filter.
Right. You know, when I first started, I would tighten my filters tight as it would go because I was new to CW, and my ears could not take hearing that many signals come into me and adjacent signals at the same time. And my Elmer would sit next to me, and he would be like holding his ears, like it hurt his ears. He goes, "Will you open that up, please?" He says, that sounds too tinny. It's killing my ears. But he was, you know, he's a Vietnam veteran code interceptor kind of guy, and he can listen to, you know, the widest of. He could probably listen to 2 radios at once and pick out who he wants. But now that I've gotten used to it, I find myself leaving my filter on the KX3 as wide as it will go. And it's like, what, 2.8 or something like that on the little dial.
Yeah.
And I leave it wide. And the only time I will tighten it down is if I do have somebody that's adjacent to me start to call QRL and CQ. And then it's, but honestly, I kind of like that I'm listening to them, because if they come sit next to me and they're a little too close, it kind of drives my customers away, so to speak,
Yeah.
where then it becomes a little confusing on who they're talking to. So, but yeah, the
And
tighter filters for when I was new, and open it up when I get a little bit more experienced.
and then to wrap up this discussion on
703.
my favorite rig.
Right.
So I love the KX2.
Oh yeah, you can't.
Like if I had to just only pick one rig, that would be the one.
Okay.
I think when we're doing portable ops, we want to have fun, and that
Right.
703 is fun to me. The
Sure.
thing I like about both rigs, and you'll probably agree with this, and this might be helpful if you have some listeners that are newer and trying to figure out what rigs work for them. I think the nice thing about both the 703 and the KX2 and radios in that ilk is it sets you up for success, because you've got a little bit more power, got
Okay.
a good internal tuner, you've got some nice features like a memory keyer.
Right.
If your first rig is, let's say, a mountain topper, which is a great rig, but you have a little less wattage, no internal tuner, and maybe sometimes it's harder to navigate menus on that.
Sure.
It could make the activation a little bit harder, especially the more compromised your antenna is, or
Right.
maybe if there's a noise source in the area. I know that you have a park in your neck of the woods that has some noise.
Right. Yeah.
So, having a rig that just has a little bit more of a feature set, I think is great for when I operate. So,
And that's a good point, because a lot of people reach out to me on the side and they'll ask, "Hey, I'm about to get started in this," But to your first point on you had made about the reason you'd picked the radio you did was based on budget, and then but later, as you got more experience and saved some duckies to the side, then you're able to get the radio that you wanted, and you're very happy with it. And then we didn't touch too much on the KX2, so that's now your go-to portable rig is the KX2, yeah.
100%. It's obviously, as a SOTA operator, the KX2 is a lot lighter than the 703.
Right.
Just tried and true. It's just so well designed.
I
love that rig.
I heard that they will tune a wet dog.
Probably. So I just did a SOTA activation yesterday, and I started with my QMX, and I couldn't get the QMX to tune up on my resonant antenna on 30 meters. I had a trap. For some reason, it was rainy, it was wet,
Sure,
just wouldn't tune up.
Right.
So I switched over to the KX2, and I couldn't get it to tune up. And I was like, wait a second, what's going on? Yeah. I changed the headphones over. I changed the key over. Right. I did not change the antenna over.
Right. Okay.
So it would not tune, no antenna.
Oh, I was making a joke. So that is why it wouldn't tune.
Yeah. Once I hooked the coax in, it was fine.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Once you hook the coax up, now it tunes.
Yeah.
Great. I love the KX2, and the size of it and everything is great. Something else I like about the KX2 also is when you are activating, and a newer person who maybe hasn't activated yet, they start out hunting, and so they'll hunt you. And I find that if you're not too fast out there activating, the newer guys will come hunting you. And I like that that little knob right there on the front. I can just grab it and immediately turn down my speed. I do like that. And I like that I can, if I need to increase my side tone volume because of noise around me, I love that that's right there on the front. I love that those little buttons are right there. And it has enough CW memories in there for me to get my business done, which is basically a CQ message and a bye-bye message. And I find that's all I need. So the Telegraph KX2 is where we've settled down. Now let's move over to when you first started out and you're getting out there to go activate. What was the antennas that you were trying as a new person, and then what are the antennas that you have settled on or morphed into, or So what do you got for antenna-wise there, starting out as a newbie?
I have always gravitated towards putting a wire in a tree. And in my operating experience, I've always had good success when I've got wire in a tree. My first portable antenna was, and correct me if I'm wrong, LNR made an antenna, and I think they sold, it was like a 41 foot, like 10, 20, 40 meter antenna, had a little matching box on the end.
And would that have been a random wire at 41 foot?
No, I think it was, no, it was tuned.
Tuned?
It was,
Okay.
it was a half wave. Yeah. It was like maybe a par infeds. I can't remember the
Okay.
manufacturer. I'll have to,
Hmm.
really think about that.
So about a 41
It's,
foot piece of wire and a matching unit was what you
yeah,
started with?
yeah.
Okay.
It's the same antenna that our friend Stu started with,
Right.
KM3STU. And I've graduated to building my own wire antennas, and I've probably built 10 at this point.
Is that just
Uh,
fun or what?
it's a great way to feel like you're more than just an appliance operator,
Right? Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Build something and go see if it works, troubleshoot it.
Right.
I use the K6 ARK matching units,
Okay.
$20, and he has great build instructions for end-fed half waves, random wires, even for ununs if you want to use it for a dipole or an off-center fed dipole. And my two go-tos are the end-fed half wave, which
Mm-hmm.
is about 60, 65 feet of wire you need to get
Right.
in the air.
Okay.
Ideally, you have a tiny bit of coax, but I don't. Historically, I haven't used a lot of coax, but recently I have been using a little 6-foot section of coax just to give me a little bit more antenna in the air.
Right.
But I will often just hook my antenna directly to the back of my rig. And then I also use the end-fed random wire.
Okay.
And the links I love on that are a 41 foot antenna. And then I use two counterpoises now. When I built my first one, I used like a 16 to 17 foot counterpoise. And now I have that shorter one and then a longer one that's like 33 feet. And I just wanted more counterpoise on the ground to see if I could boost my signal a little bit more.
Okay. You know, that's a topic I need to get smart in, is counterpoise with the wire antennas. Um, I have never used a counterpoise, and I've been using a lot of my end-fed half wave lately, but I've always used a 30-foot piece of coax, and I've assumed that it was my counterpoise. And my 30-foot piece of coax I use has the beads on the end, and so I put the beaded end at the radio when I'm using my end-fed half wave. I do have a vertical antenna, the MC750 antenna, and I'll flip
Yep.
my coax around and I'll put the beads at the antenna side because it has its own radials and, of course, the whip. So I'll flip it around when I do that sometimes. And
Yeah.
but yeah, so I'm assuming it uses that. And then I've watched quite a bit of K5OHY. He did some modeling of end-fed half waves, and he was showing the different radiation patterns coming off of it, flat-topped, sloping L's. I think he went over L's. I know for a fact he went over flat top and sloping. When you're in the woods and you're setting yours up, so wire in a tree, so are you using a throw line and then hoisting the far end into the tree? Do you hoist? Is that what you're doing there?
So I will use a throw weight and a line. I'll throw one end up in a tree as high as I can get it, especially when I'm using the end-fed half wave, which is longer.
Right.
I have found that my best days of activating are when I put it up in an inverted L formation. And that's the same way I have my end-fed half wave at my house, an inverted L. I found that has been the best, and I use a little Soda Beam's carbon 6 mass to get that inverted L shape.
Okay.
Going back to the counterpoises. So I never really used counterpoises until everybody started building and raving about the POTA Performer with the raised radials.
Okay, right.
And in Ohio, where I activate soda, there's often along the trails really short brush or weeds or thorny briars. And I have found that I can get my counterpoises up off the ground. And I've been just using that POTA Performer-esque like situation just to see if I can get some better signals out, and I think it's helping a little bit. So that's why I've been doing it.
Okay. I've seen a lot of the folks using those white fence stakes that have like a nail on it, and because they're lightweight, they could carry 3-4 of them out, and they'll poke them in the ground and then elevate the radials with those. And and I haven't found much difference in elevated radials versus laying them on the ground radials. It's not like I get a whole different pool of people that answer me. I've done some crazy things. I went to one park where they had the standard beside the picnic table metal grill, in the concrete. And this particular park, all the good picnic tables were occupied. So this one was like in the side of a hill. So it was extremely awkward. Like sitting on my side of the table, my feet weren't touching the ground. If I sat on the other side of the table, my knees were in the bottom of the table. So
wow.
So it's on a hillside, but it was level. They leveled it, but that grill was also stuck in the ground, and I couldn't set my vertical up on the tripod because it would be like leaning over 45 degrees. So I just took the tripod of the antenna, and I opened it up and I set it directly on top of the grill. And I used a bungee cord to hold it there so it wouldn't fall off in the wind. And then the radials, I plugged them in so they weren't flat on the ground. They were obviously, drooping off the top of the grill. And I tried to string them out as much as I could, but I just said, well, we'll just see what happens here. And I made DX off the top of a grill. So,
nice.
Weird, so elevated radials, flat radials, I think if you just have good conditions, good antenna, it just works.
Yeah, you're right. And that makes a great point. I will often do soda activations with other operators.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen folks who will just kind of lay their antenna on a series of bushes that are maybe 6 feet off the ground.
Right.
And they're making contacts. Now, that's not to say you want to rely on that to make your activation, but we're lucky that we have a lot of chasers in POTA and soda that are looking for us, that have great stations that can, and CW is such a great mode to hear on the radio. So yeah, even if you're throwing things on the ground. Heck, I had a buddy up, Tim, N7KOM, a couple years ago. He was somewhere in Oregon where it was Arctic conditions at the top with not a tree in sight, and he just laid the antenna on the ground.
Wow.
And he got his QSOs and got out of there. So
wow, that's amazing. All right, there we go. So inverted L is your best configuration with that in-fed half wave or wire antenna.
Yep.
In the trees. And that's kind of where that's where you gravitated still. So you started that way, and you're still with the wire antennas as your primary.
Yep.
All right. And you've made a bunch. And I do remember a while back, you showed me in a video chat we got together. You were showing me your linked dipole, your linked wire antenna you were making at that time. So there are so many plans and different versions out there that anybody could go on Amazon, buy the parts they need pretty inexpensively. And the coolest thing about making it is going out and coming home with crazy contacts on a homemade antenna that you've made. That's the funnest part for me. All right, so we've covered our rig, we've covered our antenna. Now let's talk about what was your first key that you took out to the woods, and then where have you gravitated to? And of course, being a good CW operator, you still keep an open eye for keys.
Yeah, that's one of the most fun parts of this hobby, right? Finding the keys to buy and enjoying just the nuances and the differences in them. The first key that I bought, and it's still one I would recommend, is the actually, I'll back up 1 second. The first key I built for portable use, I built myself using Legos. And there's a really crappy key called I think it's called a White Rook.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, I had a friend give it to me and it was so bad. I took it apart and I used the pieces and I built a Lego enclosure. And it was fun, but it was not a good key. It worked because, keys don't have to be crazy
Sure. Two
good to
pieces of
work.
wire touching together, right?
Right. But the first key I bought was from the UK. GM0EUL makes some very high quality 3D printed keys with really good internals, really good bearings. Um, and they're about like $80 shipped.
Wow. Okay.
And he has two different versions. He has one version that has bigger finger pieces and one that has smaller finger pieces. And the one with smaller finger pieces has a great magnetic base. That's the one that I've used for 4 years, and I love it, and it never fails on me. The, the the favorite rig or favorite key that I've recently bought was the modern Morris nameless paddle.
Okay. How's that
When I
working for you?
Great. When I first got it, it kind of skipped a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe missed a couple dits, missed a couple
And
DAWs.
what was your fix for that? Was it just
Um,
bumping a setting on the radio, or just fine tuning your gaps and tension?
with any key, you definitely got to make sure the contacts are clean, that they're
Right.
hitting cleanly, and you just play with the gaps, the tension until it gets right. Bugs are like that, right?
Right.
Like
Yes.
you
Yes.
you really just, even when you think you have it dialed in and it's, the dits aren't as clean as you want, you just got to finesse it and try different things until it works with your fist.
With your
And
fist.
that's
That's the key.
yeah,
Working with your
yep,
fist. It's not that
yep,
it's a bad key or a good key. It's just about whether your fist can make it work
yeah,
okay. Right.
yeah.
And I have found at times where I would have a missing dit or daw, and if I'm on a paddle, we're not talking about bugs, but if I'm on a paddle, when I was newer and learning, I found, of course, adjusting my gap and my tension on my key. But then if it was in my learning of CW, I also found that adjusting my word per minute on my rig, one
Hmm.
one word per minute either way. Am I dropping a dit or am I adding a dit? And I could adjust my word per minute. So that's another thing to try. So adjusting your gap and tension, adjust maybe your speed. If you're sitting at 18, you feel very comfortable. Well, what about 17? What about 19? Just try
Yeah,
that to see if
yeah.
that fixes that. And now that nameless key, it's not the normal square shape. It has kind of a hourglass shape with some ridges so you can hold it in your hand. How about comfort when you're holding that for a long period of time? How's that work out compared to those rectangular shaped keys that aren't meant to hold, or aren't really formed for your hand?
When I operate in the field, I like to use what I call a little flight deck,
Yeah.
which is a
Okay.
little 6-inch square, really thin piece of wood
Right.
that I can set my phone on. And also with the magnet base of that nameless paddle,
Right.
I've got a little piece of metal that I've got glued on there, and I can stick that key on there. So I don't normally hold the key if I can make sure it has a strong enough magnetic base that it
Mm,
doesn't move around. And that's one thing I really like
good point.
about that key. And it's gorgeous. It's just a gorgeous looking key.
It is. It's a great looking key, and they come in
Yeah.
like different colored patterns as well. I think a lot of people also like the fact that they have a little bit bigger finger pieces on the key rather than some of the tinier ones.
Yeah.
Like I had the bamatech. Do you have a bamatech?
No,
No.
I've always looked at them,
Uh huh.
and we all know the story.
Sure. Sure.
Unfortunately,
Unfortunately, we lost
the
him,
the
Marcus.
guy passed
Yeah.
away, and one of these days I'll find one at a ham fest, and
Good luck. Good
I'll
luck.
get to experience that. Oh,
Right.
they'll show up. They'll
Right.
show up. That
Sure.
might be a unicorn key,
Yeah.
but it'll show up one of these years.
Yeah, but they do have the smaller finger pieces, and so that for me that took a little bit getting used to, because of the key size and shape, it just made it a no brainer for a portable key for me.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think the nameless key is a little bit bigger in dimensions. Not much, just a little bit, but it does have the great magnets. And your flight deck you're talking about, just for listeners to kind of catch on, if you just think of an old school clipboard, the old brown clipboards, and
Yep.
then you putting some pieces of metal on there with some good old fashioned high speed glue, and that way, and you put it where you need it, so that way you could balance your rig, your maybe pad of paper, your whatever there. So however big a clipboard you need, and then that metal affixed to it to put your key on.
The other thing I love about flight decks, I don't want to put stickers on my rig, but I
Right.
get a lot of cool stickers.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
it gives me a place to put all my cool that and my coffee cup and
Right.
my water bottle. Like
Right.
that's where I can put all my cool stickers. So
There it is. That helps make it your coffee cup too, because you have your sticker pattern.
yep. Yep.
So okay, so we talked about your nameless key, and of course it's a dual lever paddle. So have you been pretty much a dual lever paddle guy in the field, or have you ever gone straight key in the field? Have you done a single lever paddle? What do you got there?
I have always been a dual lever paddle guy, especially in the field.
Okay,
Now at home in the shack, I have a little bit of everything, and I
sure.
love trying different keys and just enjoying the feel. One key in particular that I uncovered recently that I really like, and
Wait.
I
Are you going to cost me money? Don't do it.
no,
Okay.
well maybe I don't know. You have a lot of keys, Ed.
I've gotten rid of a lot of them, but anyway.
So I'm not sure this is for sale right now, but this summer I was turned on to the 9A5N solid state key.
Oh man.
It is a single lever paddle, and I can't remember the name of the company, but there was a company so this is a key that's obviously from Europe. The one in Europe comes with a very heavy base. There was a firm stateside that, through collaboration with the European company, they made a version of that with a lightweight base for portable ops. And now I know I have some really good ham radio friends who have tried solid state keys and just they don't like the feel. They're like, man, it just doesn't feel like I don't know what the word. It just feels too rigid. Maybe not as
Like they're not working the key.
yeah. It's just too mechanical for them, like
Okay.
too computerized. But I love the feel of it. And for
I've
a
never touched
POTA,
one. Is it like a um those touch sensitive, or is it actually move?
it is not touch sensitive. It actually, you do need to put pressure on it um, to engage the dits and DAWs, and the pressure is adjustable.
Okay.
It is adjustable.
You gonna
So
bring that
there's
to
not
field
really.
day?
Oh, sure, I'll bring it.
Okay. Costing me money.
It's not one where you can adjust the spacing, but you don't really need to.
Okay.
Just the way it's designed, I don't think I would ever think about that being a problem with this particular key.
Well,
But I love it. I love it a
let's
lot.
hear about let's talk about that straight key. You know the one. OD green's got to
Oh,
be good. OD green and black. It's got to be a good straight key if it's OD green and black. Let's hear about
yeah,
it. Let's tell
your
us what.
check key.
Yeah.
So you turned me on to the check key, which is what the RM31.
Right. Right. How do you like the feel of that?
It's a very nice key, cool design. I love how it has a kind of a hidden shorting bar
Right.
if you know how to operate it.
It says
My
it right on the front.
well, I don't it translate. Is that really what it says? Is
Well,
it say like I know it's got the two words and the arrow up and the arrow down. So
right.
now I'm going to have. Do you know what those words say?
Yes, I do.
What do they say?
Well, I'll let you try. Just
Okay,
take your phone and point at
okay.
it and use Google Translate. It'll read it
I'll
for you.
I'll do it later. I'll
It
do it
says
later.
it's basically it says here uh, send and receive, but I think it uses a different word
Uh,
like here and here and here and send or here and
yeah.
transmit, something like that. Yeah.
Now I know you and a lot of our friends like that's their favorite straight key. My favorite straight key, not to go off the rails too
Oh
much,
no.
um, but is the German Junker,
Right.
aka
Yeah.
the Junker.
Right.
I enjoy that feel just a little bit more, and that's
That does have a unique feel. It
my
does.
go-to rig. Yeah,
Because
yeah. And
it's yeah.
I gave you one. Have you used it much?
You know, I went through that Yunker key and I tried using it, but after the RM31, um, I just I really like the RM31, and I think I passed that Yunker over to Patrick.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Does he
and
like it?
Pat likes everything. He does. You know, Pat's a big collector of any military keys at all.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I had a. I think that's initially how I first started meeting up with Pat. Is I had two of the same J5A Army flameproof. So not the Navy flameproof that most people are familiar with, but the J5A. And I believe they started out as an aircraft key, so they were round
Mhm.
and they would be mounted on the panel of the aircraft in front of you. And so he has one of those, and he also has a cool key from a Spitfire aircraft.
Man, there's so many cool keys.
And that Spitfire key is round, and it's not a key; it's a light switch. Because
Oh,
when they
right.
were in Spitfire flying in formation, the pilots had to know 15 words a minute CW, and they had wing lights. And they, when they would have to go to radio silence because of being over enemy territory, they would look at each other and they would use that light switch because it was a light switch, but it was
Oh,
set up for left, right, so that you could flip the little dial there. But it was for using the wing lights to talk in CW.
that's so cool.
And but he is at home. They're rigged up with a 3.5 millimeter tail, so that he can plug a cord into it and actually put it on the air. So
That
that's
makes
really
me want
cool.
one. Just to say that it was used at a Spitfire. That
Oh,
makes me want that key.
there was two types of aircraft. There was the Spitfire, but there was also the Lancaster bomber that had him in there as well. Yeah, and there is an older YouTube video of a guy in the UK that has one mounted on a nice wooden board that's all shellacked and varnished,
Mm.
and he also has a wing light on a board. But he had a friend in Florida that had one, and him and his friend in Florida were making QSO with each other back and forth. And in the video, he said this is probably the first time in 70 years that two Spitfire aircraft keys have communicated together.
Wow.
So just the history
Wow.
behind Morse code keys. It's really neat when you go to, you know, I know there's a lot of folks aren't into Morse code. They haven't crossed that path yet. You know, since especially since the testing has gone to the way of, you know, you don't need to know code. But I mean, don't you just wonder sometimes when you see these old military keys at a hamfest, like what messages have they transmitted? You know, what have they seen? To me, that would be
Yes.
remarkable. Yeah,
Yes. 100%.
you know, yeah, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. I have the RM31 myself and adapted it with a three. I took off the fabric cord and put on the tail, and but so that's my favorite straight key as far as feel goes. Now I had the Bengali Spark, and it is a finely machined, heavy key. You know, because you want heavy like that, you don't want it moving around, and it is a very fine key. But it's just about the feel of the landing for me. Uh, I would describe the Bengali Spark like if I had a 200-pound anvil and a tack hammer, and I would tap the right, and I would tap the top of the anvil with a tack hammer. Very, very just matter of fact. And
Yeah.
then the RM31, I would describe it more like when you're a kid in school and you take a ruler and you put it on your desk and you slide the end towards yourself, but you're holding it on the desk and you kind of push on it like a diving board and you make that twang noise with it. Kind of like that type of
Yeah.
feel. Not spongy, not spongy, soft might not be the right word, but yeah, a slight give, but yet it
Yep.
gives crisp dits and dahs.
Yeah.
And then
That's a great description of how that key feels. I totally agree.
now, did you put your tail on yours and take off that
Yep.
cord?
Yeah. And the original cord was probably the nicest, highest quality, best
Oh,
engineered cord I've ever seen in my life.
right,
But obviously you need a 3.5 millimeter tail.
right.
So yeah, I did adjust it, but I've saved that cord.
Not only was that cord just built like nobody's business, but they thought of everything. So you noticed when you opened up the bottom of that, it's not just a straight key with just contact one, contact two that touch each other. There's a set of wafers in there that disconnect, reconnect. There's also, did you notice the white cord inside of the fabric cord? It was,
I probably
yeah,
did.
you
Remind
you
me.
did, because it was a white string inside of the cord that had no other job except for preventing it from being pulled out.
Yep.
And so there's a peg inside the bottom of that key, and that little white string was tied around that peg like an anchor point, so that if you yanked on that cord, it would not pull the contacts off.
Yeah. I, I'm not sure mine was white. I'll have to go back and look.
Sure.
I think mine might have been a slightly different color.
Maybe like brown, almost like the guts of 550.
Yeah, I
How
think it
they
was
come in
brown.
different colors, but it was
Yep.
to me, when I opened that bottom of that key, first thing I said was, "Oh my," because it's complicated. It's a complicated key. But then to see that strain relief on there, I was like, "Wow, they thought of everything." That's amazing.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was a great cord. And when I had ordered my check key, I got it from a guy, and it was new old stock, so it's a brand new key wrapped in brown paper, wrapped up in like the 1950s. So it's extremely shiny and gorgeous. But mine come with a set of headphones
Wow.
with the same cord, and they are the most uncomfortable things you've ever seen.
Right.
they're
Of
they're
course.
right. The earpieces are about as big as a large pill bottle cap, and just as hard. There's no
Yeah.
soft nothing. And you think about our operators in that time wearing those. You're like my buddy who was a Vietnam decoder. He did 12-hour shifts listening to code. Could you imagine wearing
Man.
hard plastic? Oh my gosh! No wonder people put socks on. Put socks
I
over them.
Yeah, that whenever you see those old headphones at a ham fest, there's a reason why they have like $5 or free on them, you
Right?
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know the type of headphone they are. You ever see those foxhole radio? Like you can make one yourself out of like a razor blade, a pencil, a paper clip, and a toilet paper tube wrapped in wire. It's called the foxhole radio. It's nice.
I
Yeah.
I haven't seen those, no.
Oh, it's a you basically take like a toilet paper tube, wrap it in wire, and then put that on a board. Take a take a pencil, stick a safety pin in the back of it, and the tip of the pencil touches a blued. You have to blue it razor blade that's on a that you mount to the board, and so yeah, you Google that up sometime. Foxhole Radio Project. If you have kids that are into STEM, it is a neat project because it will just hear radio waves out of the air. But you have to have a certain type of earbud. You can't take your earbuds that you listen to your phone with. Yeah, I forget the name of it. Kind of like, remember the old earphones you had as a kid that was like great big and it had the clear plastic cone on the front for
Yeah,
you to listen to things?
yeah. And like
Whatever
the
that one,
twisted wire.
yeah, whatever that was called. It would come in those 35 and 1 electronic kits.
Yep,
It was that type of earphone. Well, I
got
think
it.
that's what the type of headphones these are. They had that same type of headphone, so you could actually. Yeah, boy, I went off track on that one on the Foxhole radio kit.
That's all good. It's all good.
All right, well, Chris, we've talked about rigs, we've talked about antennas, we've talked about keys and single levers and double levers and making wire antennas and all that business. Let's go ahead and wrap this up with what would be some Something that you would like to tell anybody listening as far as getting on the air or a new operator or just CW versus voice? Just what's some closing final words you'd have for anybody listening?
Um, that's a hard question to answer. And I think the reason why it's hard for me is there's so many different levels of experience and backgrounds that people come from, and how fast they get up to speed. And there's so much information on the internet, but I'll give it a go anyway.
All right.
And the thing I would say, especially if you're just getting started with CW or Parks on the Air, Summits on the Air, keep in mind that especially the YouTube videos you see of people activating that are crushing 50 contacts on an activation with the tiniest, most compromised antennas. That's not how it's going to be when you start. And
good point.
That doesn't mean that you're failing. My first 10, 20 activations, I would have several that I failed, several where I barely got 10. And then, when I would move on and try, say, very compromised whip antenna, I would have activations where it would take me, 3 to 4 hours to get the cues I needed.
Sure.
So the great activations will come once you get a little bit of experience under your belt and find out what works for you. We talked earlier about when your operating conditions change, how it might make it more difficult. Well, you're starting with everything has changed. Everything's new. So just, I would say, if you are beginning and you feel like you're struggling, just know that we all struggle at the beginning.
Good point.
And
that's a great point.
Give yourself some time to get up to speed. And
I've seen a lot of gear for sale because of that. People watch videos, they think it's easy, they go out and they try it and it just fails. They've tried 3 or 4 times and they come home and sell it and go back to being voice 100 watts at home.
One of great example, one of the operating conditions that just does not work for me are those compromised whip antennas. I'm talking about like the AX1, the AX2, the AX3. Whenever I use them, I struggle on activations.
Right.
I still keep one because there will be situations where I'll need it.
Sure.
But whenever I watch these YouTube videos with some phenomenal operators just walking around with the KH1 and crushing contacts,
right.
That's just, I feel like I'm a pretty successful operator and I just can't get that to work for me.
I tried that just recently myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to throw a wire up in a tree.
Yeah.
To finish.
So, just keep that in mind. There's going to be some tough activations. Some days you don't make cues. Could be propagation. Could be your equipment. Could be the time of day where everyone's at work and not at their desk, not at home playing radio.
Could be if you're in the middle of Wyoming instead of sitting over here on the eastern seaboard where we are, or close to it, so where we have a lot of folks around us too.
Yeah.
Or if you're just Thomas Witherspoon, who everyone has on ham alert.
100%. 100%. Like we talked about earlier, I love rigs that give me options in the field.
Right.
10 watts, multiple bands, internal tuner, all mode. If you're struggling on CW and know somebody's out there on single sideband,
right,
there's no reason you can't pick up a microphone. Take the dust off that microphone.
Right.
Use spotting networks. Yes. I missed so many activations early on because I didn't spot. I just figured I'll find people.
Right.
Or I thought I would be able to spot in the field, and then I didn't have cell service.
Yes. Yeah.
So, that'd be That'd be my advice.
That's great advice. You know, and that's a whole episode in itself, honestly, as far as you know, yeah, I mean that could be that's a whole conversational topic there. And anyway, well, Chris, we're gonna go ahead, we'll wrap this one up, and it's been a pleasure having you on. And like you said, we're gonna meet up down at Kin Lake State Park there on
Yep.
the Kentucky Tennessee
Next
border
weekend.
area next to Land Between the Lakes. So can't wait to see you. Get together a
Yep.
couple guys and try our first get together and winter field day at the same time. Of course, you and I
Yeah.
we've gotten together before, and
Yep.
of course,
And
uh,
I'll throw out there real quick before you wrap up, for anybody listening to the CW Corner that's just listening to the podcast or getting to know Ed, man, Ed has given so much to this
thanks, buddy.
hobby. He has brought so many new ops under his wing. He has taught so many new ops at the Long Island CW Club. Has helped so many people in his community and his ham radio circles. A true man of service, and yeah.
That's something coming from a fireman.
I,
Appreciate that, Chris. Thanks for the kind words.
I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate the chance to chat with you on your new podcast. I hope it goes great.
Well, I do too. You, me, and all 7 followers we had to this at this time, and maybe
Nice.
now that I've had the mighty fine N8PEM on here, I might hit that 70K mark next.
Sweet, love it.
But Chris, it's been thanks for those kind words. But it's been and I feel kind of bad. We're wrapping it up, but I didn't even mention the Long Island CW Club. It's all over my YouTube channel stuff, but of course that's where I met Chris. And if it wasn't for the Long Island CW Club, I wouldn't have learned Morse code. I tried everything there was to learn.
Same.
The tape, CDs, whatever. But the folks over at the Long Island CW Club have created a curriculum that will take in people who don't know DIT from DA, and they have enough calendar events that if you're sitting there doing 20 words a minute already, and you want to boost your game to 30, there's classes and meetups for that as well. I think Jenna and Hunter, they host that advanced 3 class, and they're upwards of 45, looking at 50 words a minute.
Yeah.
As far as that's just, I can't even fathom. To me, it sounds like Jiminy Cricket getting beat up.
Right.
But anyway, all right. Well, Chris, we will wrap this up then, and I appreciate you being on today. And for folks listening to me, this is Ed W4EMB here with Chris-N8PEM out of Columbus, Ohio. Long Island CW Club instructor and a fireman up there serving his community as well and doing POTA and SOTA. And thanks for listening again to the CW Corner. And you can find us on all your favorite platforms, include Amazon, Apple Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all those things. And please look me up there. And you can find me also on YouTube at W4EMB. And also Chris-N8PEM's on YouTube. Just search for him there as well. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm Ed W4EMB. And we will see you on the next episode, 72. If you're QRP like you should be. Hi.